the life that we know is finished. Don't you agree? Yeah. It's finished.
You're right, all. So what you're looking at here is obviously this petition to call a general election that's underway. It's around, what time is it now? 22:35, so 10:30ish, 25 to 11, and it's up to nearly 1.7 million. And obviously, as you can see, every couple of seconds it bumps up a few hundred as well. So it's impressive, really. So I thought I'd record this while I talk about a night out I had last night, which is really kind of revealing and quite shocking, really. And it kind of ties in nicely with this, with the way things have to change or we're completely doomed. So obviously I went to Kent yesterday. I went down to Gillingham and also to the Royal Engineers Museum, who were holding a traditional do, you know, like a 1940s themed Christmas, like a wartime Christmas event sort of thing. I'm a bit bored of photographing both, but the fact they combined them together, I thought, yeah, I'll go and see that. And also, with the photo albums I produce, it makes it more interesting, you know, as opposed to like when I went to Gillingham afterwards and could barely muster 10, 20 photos of anything worth taking, because that place is obviously a bit of a... I don't mean to be nasty, but it's sad what the place is like now. It's very multicultural, extremely diverse, and normally I find a lot of the Africans and Asians are quite friendly. I didn't find that there, to be honest. I thought they seemed quite hostile, which is something similar people have told me about Croydon, Chatham. You know, there's a lot of people who will give you funny looks, but anyway, I got back. You know, I got back to Colchester, and it was around 9 o'clock. I bumped into a mate, and he offered me to go down to the pub for a pint. And I've been out in Colchester on a Saturday night for about 10 years, so I thought, yeah, all right, I'll go ahead and see what it's like these days. Bumped into some mates down the Wetherspoons. You know, had a good chat down there. I think I stayed there for about an hour, maybe 2 hours. My mate was calling it a day, sort of around 11:30, and at that point I thought, well, I've got an option here. I kind of go home, you know, or I carry on. So I thought, fuck it, I'll just lone wolf it and see how it goes. More out of interest than anything. You know, the first time I went out drinking in Colchester would be around 2005. And, you know, people who are old enough to remember the Hippodrome, Edwards, which is now Walkabout, Route, is it Flares, or was it Chicago's, wasn't it? Chicago's on the St. Botolph's Road near the castle, which is obviously known as Kebab Alley. But it was a Saturday night. You know, we're 1 week away from payday as well, and I'm not exaggerating this. When I first walked out the Spoons and went along to get some cash out, walking past Walkabout, the streets were pretty dead. You know, this is like prime time on a Saturday night, talking 11 o'clock, and you know, I got some cash out. Thankfully, I bumped into another mate. We had a few drinks in a bar called Hudson's, and absolutely dead. I'm not exaggerating. Every single table, bar one, was empty. A few more people came in a bit later and filled up another table, but it was absolutely deserted. And I remember, you know, the mid to late 2000s, even the very early 2010s, they would be completely rammed. You know, there'd be people everywhere. You'd be struggling to get to the bar. And I stayed there for a bit, had a few drinks, and I moved on. And I decided to walk down the main high street. Yates was completely dead. There was nobody in there at all. It was absolutely bizarre. There was nobody in. This is nearly like midnight on a Saturday. There's nobody in Yates. I walked past the Camelodunum, which used to be the Wigan Pen. That was completely deserted as well. I think if anything, it looked like it was closing. You know, it's putting the stools on top of the table and that. It's about midnight. Carried on down. Both sides of the pavements were dead, and it got a bit busy around Trilogy. And that bar after office hours next to Trilogy nightclub was very busy. To be fair, seemed to be where everyone kind of converged on. So after office hours was busy. Looked really good in there, but out of interest, for whatever reason, I felt sort of drawn to go into that Trilogy nightclub, and right from I was doing it entirely for the experience, to see what it was like. And right as I went in, they've got this like airport metal detector thing straight away. That's the first thing, and they've funneled it so you have to go in through one door, and straight away there's all these security guards on you, and empty your pockets into the tray, just like an airport. Walk through the scanner, and you know, in you go. And then for anyone who knows Hippodrome, as it used to be called, or Liquid and Envy, whatever, or Attic, this is its fourth management I've known in about 19, 18 years. Down the steps, and I was just absolutely gobsmacked when I walked in. I just couldn't believe it. Like, I'm not exaggerating. There's probably one, yeah, I'll say it as it is. There's literally one European or one white face in this entire area. When you first walk in, they're all of them are Africans. None of them are hostile or anything like that, but I was just absolutely shocked to remember what it used to be like to what it is now. And they've also done this weird thing where they've blocked off the dance floor, because the dance floor used to be connected to like that bar area when you first walk in, but now they've got the hip hop R&B bit, which is where obviously all the black people were, and then the dance floor must be about a third of the size of what it used to be. You know, I used to love it as it was back in 2006. You know, like the horrible wooden sticky dance floor, but the space you had, and it blocked off the back behind the behind where the dance floor was, where the DJ plays, and just absolutely shit compared to what it used to be. And you know, I stayed in and I kind of just stood back, got a drink, stood back and watched, and I noticed the top bits all shut off. I find it quite ironic they call it Trilogy Nightclub, because it's meant to be like 3 different bits like they used to be, but nowadays it's just like that area when you first walk in, the dance floor, which is only about a third the size of what it used to be. The back area is gone, and then I think, no, I can't. I don't even. No, there wasn't even an upstairs bit like it used to be. You used to be able to go upstairs, but that's not there now either. So yeah, I stayed around. I had a drink, and then this is the main part of the video. What's coming up now? This is the main reason I've made this video. Is when I went upstairs to the smoking area. I went up and I just stood in the corner. I was having a smoke, and the plan was to leave after that. But these lads, about 4 of them, 4 English lads, and bear in mind everyone else is African or a lot of like Oriental Asian lads as well. And these these English lads, 4 of them, they come over and said, "Yo, mate, how you doing?" You know, just having a chat, and you know, they basically said, you know, what you up to, you know, because obviously I was on my own. I was just like, well, to be honest with you, I'm just reminiscing about how good it used to be. I haven't been out in Colchester for about 10 years, so I thought I'd come and have a look around. And you know, this is what really made me sad, is the fact they were of the same mindset. They must have only been about 19, 20, and we're stood there on a Saturday night talking about how this country's finished. You know, because I said, well, I don't mean to be racist, but when I walked in, I thought I was in Africa. It was like being in a different continent. There's barely any English people there at all, and it's just shocking to think what it's like nowadays compared to what it used to be. You know, right from the beginning with the airframe, airport security systems, and fucking hell, I remember falling out of the Hippodrome in 2007, and they were doing tea and toast, you know, to help people sober up in the morning. What a lovely thing that was. What a lovely gesture that was. You know, you had a good night, have some tea and toast, sober you up, and off you go. And to think what it's like nowadays, you know, and this is what made me so sad, is I knew that world, but them lads won't. You know, this Gen Z, you know, they've been born into this world of iPhones and mass surveillance and social media, and there's good and bad parts to it, but I think the multicultural, mass diversity, extremely liberal culture that we've got now, far left culture if you like, which absolutely hates and despises white men because they're a problem in this big global utopia they're trying to build. They need to get rid of white men in order to have this big global utopia. But it really upset me, that did. You know, the lads in their early 20s, late teens, I stood there on a Saturday night with me talking about emigrating to get out of here. It's just so sad. It really is. Anyway, I finished me fagging and decided to leave, and you know, as I was leaving, you got the broken English women sitting around half naked on the floor, and obviously these African lads are seeing them as easy targets, so off they go with them. And I left, you know, it was probably about 1 o'clock by this time, and I carried on down to past Slug and Lettuce. Slug and Lettuce was busy, to be fair. Seems to draw in a lot of people, that does. And I carried on down to St Botolph's Road, which is obviously known as Kebab Alley. And I went down one of the side roads where Argos used to be, which is boarded up and gone now. You know, past Three Wise Monkeys, down that quiet alleyway thing. With the but there's a sports bar on the right hand side. At 1 a.m, that was shut. You know, the shutters were down. There's no one on the street other than me. And I turned left down onto Kebab Alley, and if I remember correctly, Fashions was open, but not many people in there. And then also Silk Road was open. That looked fairly busy, but not like it used to be. You know, the dance floor was pretty empty on the entry bit. But the main reason was I was trying to get to Robert's nightclub, which is a bit tucked away up this alleyway because it plays sort of 80s, 90s music, and shut. 1 a.m, shutters down, nothing going on. You know, bizarre. That was my main point when I thought, this is crazy. And I left, you know, I walked back down the alleyway past Silk Roads and then headed up back to the main town high street. Went up past the town hall, and by this time Yates was closed. We're talking 1:30. And I carried on past to Walkabout. Walkabout was quite busy, to be fair. There's a lot of people in Walkabout, and carried on. And then after a pint in Walkabout, carried on. Fox and Fiddler was shut, and the Bull was empty, if not shut. And then that last strip, there was like a bar called Rubik's, I think it was, which was busy, playing some great sort of like trance dance music sort of stuff. But yeah, it just utterly bizarre. You know, I know it's 24th of November, so we're talking about another week until people get paid. But just to think how badly things have changed since 2006, you know, the noughties to now, it's just, even the people, I don't mean to be nasty or pretentious, I'm not perfect by any means, but just the people just look fucking mad compared to how they used to as well. Just the way people dress now, it's not unusual to see someone stood in a bar in like tracky bottoms. You know, I can sort of get it maybe if you've gone to a pub, but not like a night out. It used to, because I remember getting turned away from some bars when I was younger because I was wearing trainers. And nowadays, just walking there in like Sports Direct fucking hoodies and tracksuit bottoms, and loads of security now as well. You know, like all the time you got security looking around, seeing what's going on, and very like 1984ish. That didn't used to be the case. People used to go in and enjoy themselves. But now, I know because things have changed, but that's the thing. All of it's just, oh shit now, innit, compared to what it used to be. It's sad. But yeah, however, just to finish on a bit of a positive note, like a video Charlie Veach did earlier, you know, I happened to think of this earlier, that the night is always darkest before the dawn. Obviously this ties in quite nicely with this election thing. I don't really think that I don't know if we can really fix things that much now, you know, but then again, what is the solution? Do we all just kind of give up? You know, at least people kind of, this voting thing could be a big turnaround. You know, if we get people in power who actually might be good, who might be genuine, you know, like a reform sort of thing, or, you know, because the country can't carry on like this because it's dying on its knees. But yeah, I think that's about it really. This will probably reach 2 million by tomorrow, and that's when Keir Starmer being told he's got to call a general election, or at least talk about calling a general election, because 2 million people in the UK aren't happy with the direction. Well, the Lib Lab aren't they? They're all the same uni party really. They're all the same. Labour, Conservatives, Lib Dems, Greens. They're all far left, push far left politics. I know Conservatives pretend to be conservative, but You know, we've had an Indian in charge, we've had a Nigerian in charge, and they were more concerned about diversity quotas than anything else. And nothing changed under them. You know, they didn't do anything about immigration, it got worse. They're the ones who started the hotel thing off. But yeah, it's just, to get to the main point, it's just so sad, them lads that are so pissed off with the way the country is at that young an age. It's no wonder Gen Z is meant to be full of like very conservative-minded young adults. You know, because they've been born into this fucking hellhole. It's been left behind by decades of bad governments and social engineering that's just been designed to destroy us. The music's played a massive part in it as well. For example, that bar, has been hip. Well, it's what's it called now? Trilogy nightclub. You know, you can tell back in the day that used to be like a grand old ballroom. You know, people would have done elegant dancing and stuff, because I think it was built in like the early 1900s. And obviously by the 60s, the nightclub stuff started coming in, and then back then it would have been like a glittering ball, you know, like a dance room sort of thing. But then dance music come in, and obviously by the 90s, noughties, you know, like trance, and it's just music's played a massive thing in socially engineering people. But we can see where it's got us to now. I think with Colchester as well, it's worth mentioning that it was the Roman capital of Britain, and with that, of course, we're like sort of watching something very similar to the fall of Rome at the minute. You know, like Rome was so multicultural by the end that it had no identity left, and that's sort of similar to where we are now, I guess. But yeah, last time I'll say that's the main point I made this video, is just how sad is that you've got lads early 20s, late teens, and you think the finances side of it. So I just remember the money side of it. Money now is so much tighter than what it used to be. You know, you go into a bar now, you're talking £5-6 for a drink. It's no wonder that pubs are shutting down as they are, and also these lads don't really drink as much as we used to. I suppose there's health benefits to that, but it's not right. That's why I just feel so sorry for this generation coming through now. But they're just born into this shit. You know, at least my generation, millennials, born in the 80s, even 90s, we knew the world when it's really at its peak. You know, the days of that football era of like Manchester United, David Beckham, Eric Cantona, that's Peter Schmeichel, that's Alan Shearer when he's playing for Newcastle or Blackburn. They were the glory years of football, where you had like local lads playing for local teams. Michael Owen for Liverpool, Wayne Rooney for Everton, the Scholes, Neville brothers for Manchester, stuff like that. You know, now you just got like overpaid Africans playing for teams they don't care about, and managed. Well, the chairmans are obviously foreigners, the oligarchs and so on, aren't they? Yeah, and obviously the drinking scene was a lot safer, I guess, back then as well. You still had lots of fights and tear-ups with English lads scrapping amongst each other. You know, Derby and Jimmy's always used to have a tear-up every time I went in there. I saw like a big bar fight kicking off. It's nothing new, but it's just it's a sad world. Someone said the other day to me, it's a sad world nowadays. It really is, and as I say, that's why I feel so sorry for this young generation coming through. And those of you observant to notice enough, obviously the signatures have changed because I've done this as an extra while I've been listening to what I said before. Also to add in there, you know, the music in the 90s, noughties with Britpop, Oasis, Blur, Spice Girls, Nirvana. You know, it was really, you know, even like the music from not so long ago, like Queen, Pink Floyd. And then the invention of the internet, all these things would lead you to feel optimistic about the future, that things were progressing, but now it just seems to... All these, that era was probably like peak era for kind of music and movies. You know, movies were amazing. You could go to the cinemas, you know, and know there was a brilliant movie coming out at the time, whether it be the Terminator movies or Rambo, Rocky. You know, it was just a great time in terms of creativity in the entertainment industry. And this was before the big great unveiling of who these celebrities are. Obviously, people look at celebrities nowadays completely differently because, you know, they're all being we're in the end, you know, we probably are in biblical end times now, where everything that's been in darkness is now coming to light. You know, so celebrities are being exposed for who they are. There's strange, you know, like the amount of secret trannies that's in Hollywood, and you know, even people like Tom Hanks in, you know, from Forrest Gump, he's being have the finger pointed at him for being I don't know, a bit dodgy, shall we say. I'm thinking along the lines of Epstein's Island, another thing that came out, Kevin Spacey. It was just a great time and a lot of optimism, and particularly that time when the millennium was coming up. You know, the 90s were coming into the end, we're going into a new millennium. But little did we know that that's not necessarily a good thing, because, you know, now it's quite easy to be a bit of a doomer, because if you're walking around these streets with all the boarded up shops and fucking out, and walking around and barely anyone speaking English because we've all been turned into this global melting pot, which nobody asked for, you can see why people would feel quite pessimistic about the way things are now. And also looking back to how Derby and places like that were back in the 90s, are a lot nicer than what they are now. You know, I remember back in 2016, 2015, you had the Spicehead epidemic that was going on, and that was happening all across the country, because it's a lot of lost, broken people. You know, I don't necessarily look down on these people, because there's a lot of broken people without any purpose anymore, because most of the industry's gone. A lot of them Spicehead you'll probably find once upon a time would have been content getting down the mines and working hard, but that's all gone now. You know, so they're just kind of left in these big open prisons that we've got now, which is what towns and cities have become. Big metropolises for people to live, but not necessarily any real communities there anymore. It's all just broken down, atomised individuals. Yeah, because Wendell, that he's a good YouTuber as well, like a vlogger, and a social commentator in some ways of what he sees. You know, he's been to Blackpool, and Blackpool is obviously a rough place these days. I think it probably has always been that way, quite rough. But I certainly remember going there as a kid and you know, having lots of great times there. But even when I tried to go to the pleasure beach not long ago to take some photos of the pleasure beach, they're like, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. You've got to leave all your camera kit behind, and you know, you walk in and there's about 10 security guards waiting to check you over and scan you, and you know, that was one of the things that the events in New York brought in. It's just quite ironic that the people scanning us are the people who supposedly did them events in New York, but that's a different matter. But it's a different rabbit hole, that whole event, I know. But it's very ironic that the people who supposedly were the errorists are in fact the ones who are now scanning us, you know. But yeah, so just some extra observations to throw in there. But yeah, to finish on a positive, the night is darkest before the dawn. You know, so the country's never been closer to a bit of a turning point really. People are pissed off, whether it be the multicultural thing, the mass immigration thing, not even like a racial thing, more to do with the lack of space, the houses that keep being built, the countryside that keeps getting churned up, constantly being told that we're bad, we're evil, we should be ashamed of ourselves, and watching the towns and cities be transformed beyond recognition into big global mishmashes. Yeah, so I don't think there's ever been more of a turning point. You know, the tide is pretty much about to turn if it hasn't turned already. I'd say it's turned already, but it's just the problem is now we need someone to guide it. You know, we need someone to direct it. So, okay, so yeah, finish on that. The night's darkest before the dawn. Cheers.